Israel is stepping up its security this morning after a security guard was stabbed at a Jerusalem bus station. Demonstrators turned out in Bangladesh and Indonesia after a weekend of protests in the Middle East over President Trump's recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu went to France yesterday to visit French President Emmanuel Macron. After they met, Macron once again criticized the U.S. decision on Jerusalem. CBS Evening News anchor Jeff Glor is in Paris, where he will interview the French president later today. Jeff, good morning.
John, good morning to you. And Emmanuel Macron has really thrown himself into the world spotlight now, just 7 months into his presidency here in France, trying to carve out a leadership role in issues like conflict in the Middle East, as you mentioned, and climate change. Last week, Macron criticized President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. He repeated that position standing next to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. Macron said he told Netanyahu France remains committed to a two-state solution and believes this is dangerous for peace. Netanyahu, for his part, rejected that, saying this is a reality the world needs to accept.
Paris is the capital of France. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. It's been the capital of Israel for 3,000 years. It's been the capital of the Jewish state for 70 years. We respect your history and your choices, and we know that as friends, you respect ours.
Macron did denounce the attack on that Israeli security guard that you mentioned, but he said that's happening in part because President Trump is posing security challenges by making this big announcement on Jerusalem last week. Gayle?
So, Jeff, before you go, it's been almost 2 years, to this day actually, since world leaders signed that Paris Climate Agreement. So what does the French president hope to accomplish with this One Planet Summit?
Well, Gayle, he called for this One Planet Summit in July, and he's hosting about 50 world leaders here, also some business leaders as well. The goal is to not only create some public funding, but he hopes some private funding as well. They're trying to close a $2.3 billion funding hole for developing countries to fight climate change. That gap was created when President Trump announced the U.S. would withdraw from the Paris deal back in June. President Trump will not be at this summit, and at a rally on Friday, he once again criticized the deal as bad for the U.S., but said he is open to renegotiating the terms. Macron has said that is not an option. These two share a very interesting, although brief, history. You remember there was that long, awkward handshake that took place here in France. But they do get along well personally, and that's in part because they both are political outsiders who come from a business background who are now part of the establishment. So we'll talk about that with President Macron and much more when we sit down with him.
Jeff Glor, I do remember that handshake, reporting from Paris with the Eiffel Tower right behind you. Thank you, Jeff. You can see Jeff's interview with the French president tonight on the CBS Evening News, live from Paris.